Alan Potter here, your Program and Events Coordinator with the Cleveland County Arts Council, here with video number 3 on our cardboard home building series. If you haven't already watched videos 1 and 2, please go back and do so, especially if you're someone that wants to complete one of these houses for the project. The basic construction video is very important, and it's good to know the details of what we're trying to accomplish here. But now that we have the basic construction done, if you've watched video 2, we completed the 4 walls, the roof, and the base. And it was very, we cut out some windows so you get some idea. But this is, for me, this is where the home, when you start to put those details on, this is where the home goes from a couple pieces of cardboard glued together to looking like an actual house. So it really breathes the life into it. So there are a couple things that we're going to accomplish here, and I'm actually going to use the house that's in the video. I've already filmed a lot of the process. I've got a couple of minor things to finish up still, but as you can see, we're going to side the house. I'm going to show you from beginning to end how to work that siding up the house and how to make those cuts to fit in. Then we're also going to frame around the door, the windows on the sides and the front, and then I'm going to show you how to roof it as well. Like I said, we'll also put a door on, and we'll also finish. This piece is loose still. We'll finish up that in the video here. So one of the things that you're going to notice is, one of the things that I did want to say was that if you see the part of the video, the time lapse showing the siding, and it appears to be too daunting for you, or it's not something that you want on your house, as you can see with the first house I did, I put no siding on this. This is just bare cardboard painted. So by all means, make it your own, make it the way you'd like it, and if it seems too time consuming for you to put siding on, which I will say the siding does take some time, then by all means there are lots of options out there. You could cut the strips of cardboard into squares or rectangles and make it a brick house. You have all kinds of options there. Don't feel stuck in following directly along with me if that's not something you want to do. So without any further ado, let's jump into the time lapse and get started on those details.
All right, so what I did to start here was cut a bunch of strips, about 10 inches or more in length at 3/4 of an inch height. So what I'm doing is starting at the bottom of one of the walls. You can really start anywhere you'd like. I'm starting here on the front, and I'm just going to start to work that siding up. Do not do very much measuring in terms of trying to get anything exact. I simply hold pieces of the siding up, make the mark at where that piece needs to end, and then make those cuts based on that and fit the piece in. When you frame around the door, frame around the windows, you can hide a lot of the imperfections that might exist while you're building just the siding up. So don't look at the siding in terms of your openings in your doors and windows to determine whether or not that's going to look okay once the framing is around it. And I just worked my way all the way up, moved around both the door and both of those windows on the front side, all the way to the peak of the roof. When determining the angles of the roof for the siding, I do the same thing where I simply hold up and trace the line as it would show, or as it is on the building itself, so that I can fit it in. That doesn't mean that you won't have some trimming to do here and there to make it fit, but and it's certainly not a perfect system, and you are more than welcome to make exact measurements if that is what you would like. After I'm done the front, I just move over to the side and get both sides done the same exact way. As you'll see here, I do have a little bit of trouble. First of all, there was some trouble with the video editing software a little bit, and it looks like it doubled up a piece of this a little bit. So there we are repeating stuff we've already seen. But there was a piece here that was quite a challenge for me to complete, or at least to get put into place. And I just wanted to use that as a reminder to not give up, keep going. If the piece doesn't work and you have to tear it off and cut a new piece or try a different piece, that's always acceptable. Just don't give up. Just keep working at it and you'll get it figured out with this siding. You'll see here it's sort of bowed the way it looked. So you'll see me come back and actually rip some of that back and re-glue. I just really wanted to create more of a straight line there. So now I move over to the other side of the house, doing the exact same thing. All right, so now I am going to be gluing on the details in terms of the window framing and door framing. With this, there are no prescribed measurements. I sort of find strips of cardboard that seem like they'll fit or cut them to fit the look I'm going for. You can go thin or thick with your window framing, and that includes the thickness of the cardboard as well. Whatever sort of aesthetic you're looking for, pretty much anything goes in this way. And then I just usually measure the top to bottom and do the sides of the windows or the doors, and then do the tops and bottoms. And to save a little time, I want to show you, move on to the roof now before we've got everything completed with the windows around all sides. I've chosen a thicker cardboard. I'd like the roof to look a little thicker than the previous one I've done. So I've cut out 1-inch strips, and those 1-inch strips are then measured to the width of the roof. And then I simply just take a pair of scissors and cut shingles into them, but not cutting all the way through. I just cut enough so that you're going to be able to see each individual shingle, but that they can be put on in strips. I can tell you, after having roofed a house with single shingles, it took a much longer time. So this is a much faster way to do it. Here is something I wanted to illustrate for you as well. If you have a thin piece of cardboard or even a thick piece of cardboard and make cuts into it without going all the way through, you can create angles and corners that look really nice and sharp as long as your cuts are nice and sharp, your cuts are nice and clean. So just wanted to illustrate that for you. I did that with the window, the bottom of the window at the top and the bottom of the front of the house. So I just wanted to illustrate that in case anyone was wondering. Then I take a piece of cardboard that has already got a piece, already has a fold in it. I'm using a corner from an old box for my fire extinguisher. And all I'm doing here is doing the same exact thing. I made sure it was wide enough that it's going to fit at the peak of the roof. Cut the shingles into it, and then glued it down to get that peak done. And the last thing I'm going to work on here is the door, and I'm going to cut out a base for the door by measuring the length and width of the doorway that exists, then cutting that piece out. Then I also will measure the height of the door and cut out some planks to create a wooden door aesthetic. Cut those 4 pieces out and then just glue them each to the base of the door that I've already cut out. I'm also going to cut out 2 thin strips to put across the door, create that barn door effect a little bit. And glue those into place, really thinking about the spacing in between them, trying to make it look nice and uniform as much as I can. Again, imperfections in this create character in my mind, so don't get yourself too bent out of shape if it doesn't look perfect, perfectly spaced. Then I cut the door a little bit to make sure it fits, and I'm just going to glue on those cross beams. Now, one thing that's really hard to tell from the video here is how I make a doorknob, and really I just took a small strip of cardboard that was very thin. I rolled that strip into a cylinder and glued the end. And then I also glued a piece of cardboard to the top of that and then cut around that to the shape of the circle so that I had a covering for the end and you didn't see the corrugation. Not necessary. You don't have to put the doorknob on. You don't. It's totally up to you. But I think it adds a nice little touch to it and really completes the whole picture. Once the doorknob is in place, I then move on to making sure the door is attached to the house, and I do that by just cutting 2 more strips and gluing them to the back of the door where the hinges would be. And then I put a little bit of glue on each of those strips to glue to the inside of the building and sit it into place. And there it is, all done. I will side the back when I have, or before we get the painting video started. But this gives you a really good illustration of what you can complete with these houses or with the cardboard. Appreciate you watching. Look forward to the next video, which will be coming very soon to show you how to paint. And talk to you soon.